One podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering subreddits for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine, everybody. Tony just muted and burped or something.
I did. That's why I muted it.
Flat rip.
Oh man, so good. This is the podcast where we burp into those salty mines. And we find the saltiest posts that we can, those from the Magic the Gathering subreddits. Oh god,
Killing it.
So smooth as butter.
yeah, I'm doing a really good job.
Killing it.
You killed it all right.
So we get the salty posts, we read them and talk about them for you, for your entertainment.
Nice. Good save.
And I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hello, friends.
Hey,
Hello,
Cool.
friends.
nice. Did it.
So what's new with you guys? We just recorded an episode back to back, so we're a little punchier than normal. That means this one's going to be good.
I talked about it in our Discord because I love it, but I love Christmas. It's like a big thing for me.
Oh yeah,
And like for the first time in like 10-ish years, probably, I got to put up this village. So like every year
This
we
is so
would like
cute.
put up this like Christmas village, and it was like this thing that I always did with my grandmother. And so it's like I just haven't done it in a long time because I didn't live somewhere that I had room to put it up. And most people would be like, what do you mean? A Christmas village is like a tiny thing that could fit most places. However, when you're like an addict like me, I have like 4 6-foot by 2.5-foot tables. So do the math, fans. Like that's a lot of area to cover. Like
It's a lot of square footage.
there's like a whole corner of my basement that is now just consumed by not one village, but like 2. I have like 2 villages and like a forest in between. And like I've got the Polar Express running around. I'm like,
Damn.
I'm fucking here for it.
Amazing.
Now Tony, for people who don't celebrate Christmas or just generally don't know what the fuck you're talking about, what is a Christmas village?
That's a great question. A Christmas village was started by, it's similar to like Halloween and the candy companies. Like they were like, oh, people will collect little porcelain houses and fucking buy this shit. It's like any other thing. It's like a decoration aspect to the holiday. And so like for me, that's actually what I love about Christmas. There's like all the decorating, you kind of put everything up. So it's like the actual holiday itself, like it's like fine, but I like getting a tree and putting up a tree and doing all these things. So it's like these figurines and things that we have are like half of them are from like my
they're figurines.
grandmother's childhood. There's a mix. So like I have
You
houses.
still haven't said what they are.
Oh, sorry, I haven't even gotten there. Yeah,
You're just
We're
so
figurines.
hyped on the
I'm-
Christmas
I'm
energy.
getting into the spirit of Christmas right now. So like I needed some air for that, you know?
Yeah, you're winding up.
So it's like my grandmother started collecting these houses. And so there's like a mix. We have like houses and then people. And like over time, I've like collected them myself. And like Department 56 is like the company that makes the vast majority of these. I'm sure there's like other brands and stuff, but like they're like a big. I actually don't know if they went out of business or if they're still around. I assume they're still around. I haven't
Yeah.
bought something in a long time, but like it's an interesting business model because literally all I knew them for was making like this shit. It's like only good one time of year, right? But like I also actually got my mother got me the original Dickens village, so like the whole like Christmas Carol story from like a thrift store. Like somebody like brought it in and it was like $300 for everything.
Wow.
So it like doubled the size of the collection, which caused me to move to this like table like platform because there was nowhere else to fucking put it. I used to put it around our Christmas tree actually.
On the floor?
Yeah, like around.
You didn't
it and
have
stuff.
pets.
We did.
Really? 'Cause my cat would fuck that up so hard.
At Christmas time, the cats would just be like left downstairs. Like they just
Yeah.
didn't get to come upstairs. And the dogs we had were like usually chill. They weren't like much of a problem. And there was a couple of years where we like put up a gate around it which then sort of defeated the purpose. But then again, we started putting it like up.
It was a gated
stairs.
community that year.
Yeah, basically.
No dogs allowed.
The one year, like we had this cat Harry who got up there, and you could see like it's like a monster was attacking the town because you saw these like huge like paw prints all over the place when he was up there like walking around and like knocking shit over. Yeah. So that's my story of what's happened to me.
That's awesome. I don't have too many Christmas traditions. My big one is that we put up the Christmas tree and decorate it and watch White Christmas.
Nice.
Which is just like my feel good holiday movie. Been watching it since I was a kid with my grandpa. My grandpa was in World War II, so it's like very affecting when we used to watch with him. It's like the only time I'd ever see him cry was like watching that movie. So now I just fucking weep like a baby when I watch it. And of course I have my Christmas tree with my Magic the Gathering star that is on the top, which my wife made like, oh man, she must have made that like 8. I don't know. It was before we got married. So she probably made that like 9 or 10 years ago. God, maybe
I didn't know she made it.
Yeah, she made it, dude. She made it. If you guys haven't seen this, I've undoubtedly posted it on Instagram or Twitter. So check us out. The Howling Salt Mine on Instagram, Howling Salt Mine on Twitter. Go check it out. There's definitely a picture of it. It's a Wooburg star that my wife cut out of lands. And it's got like multiple levels to it. And she just did it freehand. She had no form, no like tracing, no design that she was going off of. She just cut it freehand, put it together with like toothpicks and tape. And we've had it for like 10 years. And it's like legitimately a very beautiful star. Like I love to put it up there. And it's magic themed. It's awesome. It's great. And it's one of a kind. I just love it. And my contribution was I was like, yeah, and we can put lands on the tree too. So there's a single land that just has like a hook through it that is just hung on the tree. Like nice. So ugly, not crafty at all. And that was my contribution.
It's amazing.
What about you, Mike? You got any cool Christmas traditions you're up to?
We don't have too many big ones. This is going to be a fun year because we're having it at my brother's house for the first time. It's always been. So I have 2 siblings and they're both married with kids at this point. We get them for Thanksgiving, but we don't get them for Christmas one year. And then the next year it's flipped where we don't get them for Thanksgiving, but we do get them for Christmas.
Yep.
So this is a year we get them for Christmas and we're going to my brother's house, which will be cool because we've always had it just like at my parents' house. So
that's
going to be fun.
Man.
It's going to be fun running around a new location for that.
Yeah. That's
getting
great.
stuff for the kids too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of the most fun things is I now have 5 kids under 5 that I get to go shopping
awesome,
for,
dude.
which is amazing. Edit the ages out, please, Sam. I now have 5 kids that I get to go shopping for, which is amazing.
How old are they?
Those are like the super fuck you.
Oh, wait, let me rephrase that. Are they old enough to play Magic yet?
No, not yet. They're not Magic age yet. I mean, they're getting close, but probably not.
Stephanie has a nephew and a niece, which in theory I shall too once we are married. But I'm excited for them to get to a Magic age. They are not there right now. But
yeah.
Like when they get to it, I definitely want to be like, hey, here's this like
thing I'm obsessed with.
Yeah. Have you listened to my podcast?
I was say by that time we'll be fucking celebrities. So it'll be like,
Yeah, they will have heard about it just because it's your day job at that point. I don't have any little kids in my family at all. I think I'm the youngest, or my cousin is the youngest. Yeah, my cousin is the youngest. So on my side of the family, there's no. I mean, my on my dad's side, there are some, but we're not like super close, so we don't see them too much. And hey, if they're listening to this, we are close. No, they know.
Yeah. Imagine.
They're not listening to
That's
my fucking
how they find out
Magic
that you're
the
not
Gathering
close.
podcast. Yeah.
That really hurts, Sam.
Oh,
Really
man.
cut me deep.
Oh man, I got something for the Patreon. I'll tell a story about my visit to LA with that involved my cousin. I'll put that on the Patreon.
Nice.
It's a really great story where I talk about attempting to visit my semi-famous cousin and how it went horribly awry.
Love it. I'm fucking here for it.
Anyways, but yeah, so our holidays have shifted into a much more like adult space where we all just like, enjoy some beers.
Fucked up on some schmegnog.
Yeah, schmegma.
Schmegnog.
Schmegma? Oh God,
It's the
dude.
worst.
Be
It's the
careful
worst.
with the words you use, Tony.
This has been going on for years, Sam. I can't believe this is the first year. Yes.
You cannot say that.
Yeah. Can you tell him that? Thank you.
You can't say that. That's gross. You know what that is?
Yeah, I do.
You still say it?
The pride on knowing
He's
what
so
it is.
happy right now. So satisfied.
Yeah, I know what that is.
But I do
Disgusting.
have some good eggnog.
You know what?
that's
Eggnog. You know what? Eggnog is bad. I'm coming out and saying it.
And
Eggnog's
schmegnog
honestly
is
gross.
way worse.
I agree that eggnog is bad. Have you had much homemade eggnog?
No, and I'm going to keep it that way.
Because homemade eggnog is good.
I disagree. I bet it's bad.
No, it's definitely good, bro.
Isn't it just like raw eggs?
Egg
And
yolks and some nog.
What's the nog part?
Booze.
Well, for me, it's like
Is
bourbon and cognac and rum.
So if you were drinking some rum, if you wanted some like rum on the rocks, you'd go to a bar and be like, give me nog on the rocks.
No.
So nog doesn't mean alcohol. That's what you implied.
The origin of the nog is a mystical tale that not few know, I assume. Because I don't know.
We're so off topic. Oh man. I don't even have a segue. Let's just get on topic.
Yeah, let's just read. Let's read about some salt.
Yeah. Oh, just like Santa brings gifts, you have brought listener mail to us.
I feel like that didn't have to be the stretch that it was.
Oh, yeah, right. I probably could have just said it's way smoother.
It's okay. We don't judge here. Judgment-free zone.
Try it again.
It seems like a high judgment zone here. Our track record is that this is like a very big judgment zone.
Almost exclusively judgment.
Yeah, that's like the crux of a lot of our comedy style is heavy judgment. So we are going to be reading some mail from all of you out there, a little Christmas gift. Assuming this episode comes out around Christmas, we keep saying that. I'm pretty sure it's going to. I think.
Well, this one has to, because now we've talked about Christmas
this
a
one
lot.
is obligated.
Yeah,
to.
now this one does have to.
This is the Christmas episode for sure.
Well, yeah, we got some mail time stuff for you guys today. So we're going to jump into that, read some of your salty stories, and get into it. Here's the salt that never faults. It makes me want to tap my vault. When it comes, I must exalt salt. Yes, we're still singing the song.
Yeah, we are.
I wish fans could see us though, only for this one moment. Because I was doing it poorly, but I wanted to do the like one person goes down, one person goes up.
Yeah.
Like doot, 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 doot. They still can't see it, but like hopefully they're envisioning it from.
Yeah, they're feeling it. They're feeling the vibes. All right, so this is a Reddit DM. This one comes to us from user Burlex, and user Burlex says, "Hey guys, love the podcast and glad you messaged me about it on my What's Your Favorite Magic Podcast post. Yeah, marketing. Ever since then, I've been listening and so glad you are doing well. Thanks, dude. That does really mean a lot. I love that stuff. I love to hear when people like found us in the wild. Like the other day, I messaged somebody to see if we could use their post from Reddit. And they were like, "Oh, I love the podcast. You definitely can." I was like, "You've heard of us?
Yay.
That's so cool." Always makes my day. Anyways, so back in Cons of Tarkir block, my friends and I got really into Commander to the point where we were always playing and eventually getting into arms races. We were young, so we had disposable income from our part-time jobs and not paying rent. Our decks were starting to get stacked. Think Sylvan Library and Demonic Tutor as purchases I made.
Nice.
Our local game store, shout out to Sweet Spot Sports, Wow, what a name. Sweet Spot Sports and Gaming in Portland was having an EDH tournament. This was before power level talks and even before CDH was really recognized. So the tournament was just the best decks everyone in our little community could make. So finally the day comes. Both my Magic friends are there, and it's a single elimination tournament. Since it's a long time ago, I don't remember the other two decks in my pod, but the deck in question is the Scion of the Dragon. I can't remember the sequences. All I remember is this Dragon player focusing me with all attacks until I was dead around turn 6 or 7. This was a lot earlier than my friends and I could eliminate each other. I hate to admit it, but I was salty. I got up, silently grabbed my consolation prize, and just walked home. No eye contact to the winner, shop owner, and definitely no good game. I think my friends tried to stop me as we came as a group. I still think about this today, and it's not the worst thing I could have done, but it's one of those thoughts that sometimes pops up at night. It has forever shaped how I want to be as a Magic player. I never want to have someone feel bad about playing a certain deck or archetype. He was just playing optimally for trying to win the tournament. Now, all of the greater Reddit and Magic community knows how casual EDH tournaments turn out, and this is just my personal experience. This is just another reason why tournaments shouldn't offer hefty prize support like packs and playmats. Maybe I would still have gotten salty, but probably not as salty as I did. Well, thanks for the salty story.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great one.
We experienced this like in our trip to Magic 30.
Yeah.
Part of what generates the salt too is like, I feel like everybody thinks they're bringing like something really powerful. And then some people show up and crush you and you're like, oh, and you're just sad. It's like fair. Like I would be sad too. Like we definitely like, we crushed people. Sam and I did in like the two-headed giant thing. And like, really, it was kind of just whatchamacallit, a Rafiq like doing it because it was like, it was hashtag too easy.
I cut that out of the Magic 30 episode.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because we got in like a big fight.
Yeah, that was a good fight.
Yeah, it was good, but it was a little too raw.
Not good content.
Yeah, it wasn't good content.
Just
but it was
cathartic.
a good argument. But yeah, basically at this two-headed giant tournament, we knew it was going to be two-headed giant. So I was like, I have this Rafiq deck that is made to knock out a single player as fast as possible. And in two-headed giant, you know, it's basically like head-to-head, but with the two players. And commander damage was still 21. We confirmed it. Commander damage was still 21, which I thought was insane. So we basically got there and I was like, who wants to win this with me? And Tony played his Rubinia deck, which is like the perfect control deck, stealing creatures. He's got great counter spells that he swapped in. And we just like crushed. I mean, we were knocking people out. I think we won both of our games like turn 4 or 5.
I think we won both of our games like turn 3 or 4.
Yeah, that's probably true. It was fast.
And the prize support in that was pretty limited. Like a win in that event was like half of a pack.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
pride.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't like a crazy amount of prize support or anything. But, you know, I mean, I think that just happens in any tournament. Like you sit down and somebody is going to be busting out some crazy spice that you haven't seen. You're going to be coming up against a deck that is way stronger than yours or way weaker than yours. And, you know, there's just going to be imbalance because some people are joining these things with their precons because they are just like, hey, I want to play more EDH and I've never done a tournament. And some people are like, I know what this is like. And I'm bringing my CDH deck.
Yeah.
And I'm going to win that prize, you know?
But just as an artifact of making it a tournament is like all you need. Like by doing that, you're like, okay, training wheels are off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have signed up for this event now. I have signed up for this event and I'm bringing the heat.
Yeah.
And you can roll or you can't.
Yeah. There's totally an element of like, as soon as you've said that it's an arms race kind of explicitly, you know that everyone's bringing the best thing that they can bring. And that's pretty nice because it kind of means that the gloves should be off. And it is why I like the distinction of like only CDH should run tournaments in Commander, I feel like, because you shouldn't need to have a rule 0 conversation in a tournament. Like,
Yeah.
if there's prize support, you shouldn't have to tell people how your deck is winning, what it's doing. Like that information, you know, that's information. A tournament, you should be able to protect that information. But if you're sitting down for a game of casual EDH, you should always be able to have that kind of conversation with people. And so the tournament format just doesn't really support that very well.
Yeah, it's hard because you may want to bring like your high power casual deck that you think is very powerful, but someone's going to play some CDH and you're going to feel outclassed and you might have a bad experience, you know? I think this can happen in leagues too. I've talked about, you know, my experience running EDH leagues a few times on the show, but I do want to shout out, a local gaming store near me, Untapped Games in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. It's a fantastic shop. If you're in the area, check it out. And they do a weekly EDH league, and it's not based on wins. Prize support isn't based on wins. It's based on showing up and playing. So those Rule Zero conversations do happen, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's a participation award, you're saying?
Well, it's like how often you play, you get a point, let's say. And let's say out of a month, you're there 3 out of 4 weeks. Well, you only have 3 points. And other people who are there every single week have 4. And then each point is like a point in a raffle, essentially, and gets you more attempts to get like a pick. But it's basically just like set aside time to come in, be guaranteed to be matched up with other people and play games with people at your LGS. And it's super cool, man. I mean, it's a really chill way of doing that without this kind of prize support that brings that tension and the arms race that this person talked about.
Yeah. And I also love in this story that feeling of like knowing that this event is shaping who they want to be as a Magic player. That's the best part about this. It's part of why we talked about, you know, starting this podcast in the first place too, is like so many of these salty moments they're just great learning moments. They're great moments to be like, reflect back on and be like, oof, that really rubbed me the wrong way. What was it about that was so awful? And then you can learn so much from that.
Totally. I mean, even us with this podcast and tracking salt in our games, that's really to be like, I don't want to be this salty, you know, like I'm not having fun when I'm super salty. I'm feeling bad and saying mean things sometimes, and that's not cool. I don't want to be doing that again. So, you know, just that awareness is always great. I love it. I do want to point some attention to this arms race they talked about when they were younger, just had disposable income. We're just dumping money in cards. Like, man, I really dream for those moments and wish back to those days. Like I have more money now. Obviously, I'm an adult with a decent job. So I can buy way more cards, but I don't have as much time to play. Whereas back when I first started playing and I was in college, I would play Magic from like sunup to sunrise. Like it was, or sunup to sunset. Like I would play Magic all fucking day, you know, and it was the best, man. And if I had any like money, we'd just go crack packs. And I also wasn't as optimized as a player at that point. So every card looked really cool and good to me. Like I would see like jank chaff and be like, oh, this card is fucking crazy, you know?
I also at that point in my Magic career didn't really grasp that you could order cards online. So any cards I was getting were ripped from a pack. And that aspect was pretty fun too.
I only started getting into like purchasing singles like later in my early Magic career. And that was all just from the local gaming store at college. You know, they had like a plexiglass case and you could look through all their singles. And that's where I got my 4 Demigods of Revenge.
Nice.
Love it.
I think it's actually for me a shout out to Alex Rock. I think he's the one in like my crew that was like, oh, this exists, like TCG player. Like this is a thing where you can go and like buy cards, like singles. Because I was just going to like the LGS in Worcester to buy stuff. And, like there wasn't a huge selection. And that like was a pretty big game changer. And then I think for the bulk of my career, my Magic career, I've been like a purchase singles, also buy box, rip packs, and then really just kind of look at the last couple cards. Be sad when they're trash, stick them in a box and never look at them again. So what do we think about the salt rating here?
Man, this is type 2 salt. You know, we talked a few episodes ago, we talked about type 2 fun. It might have been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 episodes ago, which is the fun that you experience way after something this is like, maybe this is type 2 sugar. Like you had salt in the moment, but looking back on it, you're like, hey, I can actually get something pretty positive out of this. And I think that we can all look back on those games where we got really tilted and salty and be like, I don't really want to be that kind of player. And I don't want to be that kind of opponent, you know?
Yeah. I think there's so much salt here too in like showing up to something and then learning that what you were expecting in the experience is not what you're getting. It's like, psych, this is actually where people are going to knock you out in 6 turns. So
I'm just imagining if this was us though, if we like had rolled into an LGS and like Sam lost first, would he walk home without us or would he wait for us? That's the question in my mind.
Yeah, that is pretty salty. I guess I forgot about that part. To just be like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
I'm going home.
Yeah, that's pretty salty. I've been there though. I haven't walked home before, but I've definitely had some nights where I'm so salty that when I get knocked out of a game, I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. And I just fucking log off, you know?
Yeah. It's in that tone and at that speed as well. You say that and then you've left.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no goodbyes. I am clicking out.
Yeah.
Should we grab another one here?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, this next one is a Reddit DM, and it comes to us from user Adam67390. And they say, this friend I'm about to talk about and I are fans of the podcast. You guys are quite entertaining, and I like a lot of the mentality you guys have towards the game. Even if I don't agree with all of it, the different views are nice to see. I really like hearing about your guys' pod and would like to hear more about how you got it to that point, since it seems like a super healthy environment. It makes for some fun gaming. Keep up the good work. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. This is a story from when I was first getting into Magic/EDH. My friend had an Atraxa Infect Proliferate deck and had a Kali of the Vast Mass Land Destruction deck. So already a super toxic table. Lol. I don't remember all of the details so well anymore, but we get to the point of the game where I'm pretty much dead on board. My friend had Atraxa with Sword of War and Peace equipped. So we get to my turn, and I draw for turn, and the gears start turning, and I'm like, oh, I can win this. So I pass my turn. He attacks, adds the poison counters, proliferates, end turn, and proliferate again. My turn, I draw, play Custody Battle on Atraxa, and cast Armageddon. Play my land for turn, and pass. His turn, I gain control of Atraxa, and he passes. My turn, I draw, I sack a land, play a land, and then hit him with his own commander, which still has the sword equipped, so I get to grow Atraxa. His turn, nothing. My turn, I sack the land, then kill him with his own commander. I'm laughing my ass off as my friend is sitting across from me, super salty, and just complaining about how bad of a bad taste is in his mouth.
Already in the mouth, too. The analogy is already made.
Yeah. I feel like we're establishing the knowledge of my dislike of mass land destruction and Mike's like here for it attitude, which both are fine and acceptable. You know, I mean, it's kind of trash, but like at the same time, like what can you do?
I mean, I think that's a perfectly acceptable use of it. Like
Totally.
You're using it to further your end, you know, like you're using it as a win con at that point. Like stealing someone's commander and then blowing up all their lands, and then so they can't like take it back effectively. I think that's super fair to do.
Yeah, they had the line, saw it, and did it. It still happened over two-ish turns, maybe 3 turns, whatever it was there. But like they knew that it existed, which is the difference. Like you're not just like blindly doing it to like because you're in a bad spot but don't have something to do. Like they had a plan, which I do appreciate and like.
I do want to point out how fucking weird it is to start learning how to play Magic and EDH period with like an Atraxa Infect deck and a Kali of the Vast Mass Land Destruction deck and playing them head to head. Like what? What is this?
That's so wacky.
Yeah, like, what is this?
I would say of my first like 20 or 30 commander games, though, probably half of them were just like Tony and I sitting down across the table. Just because we had like built these decks and we couldn't always get 4 people together, but we lived in the same apartment, so we could just jam games.
That's a really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to get the reps in.
Yeah. I used to play a lot of head-to-head Commander with my wife, actually, with the old monocolored Planeswalker decks when like it was like Duretti and Teferi and the elf one, and there's like a black demon one, and then the core one. Who's the core Planeswalker?
Nahiri.
Nahiri, yeah, the first Nahiri, the Lithomancer deck. And the Nahiri Lithomancer deck and the Elf deck played so well against each other in head to head. It was like very, very balanced because both of them were just doing big creature things, you know, lots of combat and stuff like that. So it was a really good time. So I'm not disparaging head to head when you're learning, but MLD and Infect head to head is like a crazy space to be playing in.
It definitely is. I will say one other thing on like the head-to-head games, because it's just because it made me think. I actually don't know if you remember this, Sam, but I came down to Rhode Island one time, and you and I were playing head-to-head, and it was like your Morophon deck. It was like your Morophon Elementals deck,
dude.
like one of the first times, and there's kind of this interesting dynamic in head-to-heads where I feel like they can be fun depending upon what you want to do. Like I feel like we just sat there watching each other pop off. Like
Yeah.
we didn't really stop each other. Like we kind of knew we had things that we could, but we were just like, I'll let you do the thing. And it's like interesting to kind of like see it. And like when it gets like pretty out of control, that's when you kind of stop it or try to. But usually at that point, the
Yeah, it's gone
snowball's
too far.
already like too far down the hill. But I don't know. It just made me think of that time because also like basically what we would do is I would come down. We would get like really good food. Sam always finds the really good food.
You know it.
We drink and play Magic. It's always fucking great.
Amazing. An
Well,
amazing time.
It's a funny thing head to head because I find it's either like super playful and you're really just like kind of vibing and like chilling and it's very casual, or it's like as cutthroat as possible. Because if you're going to be playing optimally head to head, every removal spell in my deck, I know what player I'm going to point it at. You know, I don't have to be like, I got this one Swords to Plowshares. What's the biggest creature out there that I need to deal with? I'm like, oh, it's you. It's just you right there across from me. I'm going to send it at you.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate this poster asking kind of like how we found our group that we ended up playing with too, you know?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things is that we tried different stuff out. Like we played with other people. Like I didn't show up some of the first times we all played. I think I remember there being someone else there for a while. Maybe Sam, you weren't there.
I'm not going to take all the credit, but it was a lot of me assembling my dream team.
Yeah, Tony
Totally.
the dream team.
Totally. But also experimented with them. Like I feel like you tried playing with a few different people, and then when we did find this group of four and played a couple games, I do think it was pretty obvious, like, oh, this just works really well for us. So for people out there looking for pods, I think it is a good idea to, you know, get some games in with other people. And when you find someone you really like playing with,
latch onto them.
Yeah. And then search for the third person and then find the fourth person, you know, like you can build it up from that.
Talking on that same topic, I think that we have similar deck building philosophies. And we consume similar Magic the Gathering content as well. I mean, we all used to be like really big on game nights and Command Zone. Still love those guys. I just don't consume it as much as I do now. And now we're all into very similar, you know, CDH channels and things like that on YouTube. Being on the same page about what you want out of a game, but also how your decks get built and what your power levels kind of are.
And what you're trying to do, like
what do you want your
things
EV
you
to
find
be?
interesting.
And like the types of decks that you want to build too. I think we all just generally overlap a fair amount with that. And you know, and some things more than others, and it really shines through some stuff, like how our meta is lower on board wipes, just happens to be. And you know, like different things like that, it definitely helps us be pretty consistent.
We also like thrive off of each other's creativity though, which is something like I appreciate. And that's just like me as a person in life. I also am like that. Like I do well in settings and environments where I'm around like smart people that I can learn from. And like, I just like that kind of an environment. And so like, I feel like in our Magic setting, we like sort of foster that.
Yeah, and I mean, we also just love talking about Magic together. I mean, case in point, we're on a fucking podcast right now. And we're good friends. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you can have people that you really love to play Magic with, but one of the things that takes it to the next level is like, we'll just hang out and not play Magic. I mean, generally we do
Why
play
would
Magic
we do that though?
because we're like,
To the detriment of our sleep at
we
the end of our
gotta.
calls.
yeah.
Fucking Sam.
Oh my God.
Sam and I will
can't-
just chat so many times.
I can't tell you how many times like we end a Tuesday night gaming session and we're all like, bye guys. And like Nick logs off and Mike logs off and Tony and I are the last two to log off. And then we just keep talking for like 2 hours and we start like building a deck or, you know,
like so many things.
oh my God. It just goes on. I mean, yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I think when you find it, it just feels right. But trying to find people who are like-minded and trying to shape the same experience, you know?
When you know, you just know.
You just know, man.
Please, bro, please. What's the salt rating? Question mark. I think we're far away from.
Yeah, we're so far away from it. I think the salt rating on this is hilarious. But it's kind of
mass land destruction.
Yeah, the MLB and the poison.
This is two people
Kill
just
you with
aiming
your
massive
Atraxa.
salt cannons at each other and
Yeah.
blasting away as much as they can.
It's like what did the Atraxa player expect? It's basically like two people with like tactical nukes, and yours is about to go off, and then the other person just sets theirs off before you, and you're like, come on, why? How'd you do that? Why'd you do? I was about to do it with mine. It's like, you know, you're playing with the big guns. You need to expect that is going to happen. I think we've all had that happen to us, but turnabout is fair play for sure.
Well,
What do we got next?
What?
So this next one is also a Reddit DM, and it comes to us from Super Downvote Master.
Nice.
Does Reddit tell you how many downvotes you've done?
It does.
Really?
I don't think it tells you how many, but you can like sort by things that you've downvoted.
That's amazing.
I want to
can see
know
your
like
history.
the number that this user has downvoted.
Yeah, that's like an amazing name.
It's not
I
over
love it.
10,000. Are you even trying?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'm sure I'm over 10,000.
I just wanted to get close to
downvotes.
the DBZ meme, so I said 10,000.
And Super Downvote Master comes to us. Oh, Super Downvote Master just became a Patreon too.
Oh,
Nice.
Thanks for
welcome,
joining,
Super
dude.
Downvote Master.
You rock.
Welcome to the group.
Yeah, the patrons will know how far back we recorded this episode.
Yeah.
And the post from Super Downvote Master says, "Hey guys, still loving the pod. Thanks for all the laughs and salt. I have a quandary for you all. A player in my regular group has taken to asking everyone." Oh, this one's a good one. I'm remembering it now. A player in my regular pod has taken to asking everyone what commander they're playing before deciding what commander he'll play.
Oh,
If he already has a deck out and finds out I'm playing Bruvac, for example, he'll put his deck away and grab another deck, one with an Eldrazi in it to counter the mill effects. This, to me, feels very much what would be like the insider trading of Magic. How would you handle this situation? Would you tell him flat out that he can't be switching decks like that? The guy also scooped 2 turns into a game when I was playing Beamtown Bullies and got an Eater of Days into my graveyard. I didn't even have the mana to cast out Bullies yet.
So,
Well,
that's just great.
yeah.
We talk about that all the time. It's like if someone's willing to shoot themselves in the foot just because of like what you potentially have in the future,
Yeah, it's crazy.
great. Well done. Free effect.
Yeah, like whatever put the Eater of Days into your graveyard, it's basically like if it was a 1 mana entomb, it basically says entomb a card and remove target player from the game. You know, like that's good
That's
value.
strong.
That's very
Everyone
strong.
should be running this.
I will also say Eater of Days fucking sucks. Oh man. Eater of Days has an ETB that says you skip your next 2 turns. And with Beamtown
That'd
Bullies,
do.
you can give that to other people. So I mean,
that you can.
You know. that's a pretty vicious scoop, but also That's pretty rough.
Yeah, but you get a 9/8 flying trample
I mean,
as a reward.
Yeah, it's a
Wample.
big body, but that ETB. Whew. So to the question at hand about
Yeah.
switching decks after somebody asks. Yeah, I think that's bullshit, man.
It's totally bullshit, but it's really hard. It's hard to deal with bullshit because there's totally an element of, if you're having a rule zero conversation, you can very validly not get really shitty deck matchups. Like, that's fine. Like, if someone plays,
Yasharn into your
Yasharn,
aristocrats
yeah.
deck.
Yasharn. Let's talk about Yasharn, because
Exactly.
that's our example. Like, Mike has this Yasharn deck, or had it, and the first or second time you busted it out, you just crushed us with it and like kind of let it do its thing naturally. But by just like wrecking our strategies. And then after that, you'd be like, hey guys, I want to play Yasharn. Like, can we come up with a deck matchup where you're not going to be completely hosed, but I can still play this and still get some value out of it? And we kind of find a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think the point for me usually is like, we say what we're gonna play, and if somebody's got a deck that like totally just hoses me for one reason or another, I will like want to switch to something else. But I'm never switching to something that then counters their decks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that's like an intent that is wrong.
Yeah.
If you want to make it so that your play is better, as in like you'll enjoy the game, like you can have a good game and have impact, that's one thing. But like actively switching to be like, oh, only fuck the mill strategy right now, which I've wanted to do. I've thought about slotting like those kinds of effects into multiple of my decks, but I would never deliberately like change to one of those. I would rather it be like a surprise of like, oh yeah, Nick, like mill me with Bruvac right now. Like,
Yeah, I got some tech in here for you.
Yeah. It's never like he says he's gonna play that, I'm on the side either slipping something in or like deliberately grabbing a separate deck for that.
Yeah. There's no sideboards in EDH, and that extends to decks.
Exactly.
You can't hot swap your deck out just because someone else. It's sort of what this player is doing. They're kind of trying to sideboard by choosing a deck that happens to have this one card that they're looking for. Like, really what they're doing is sideboarding in this Eldrazi Titan to deal with the mill deck, which is definitely BS. Like, you can't do that. And you can call a player doing this deck switching thing. You can both call them directly out verbally, or when they switch decks, you can switch decks.
Yeah.
And then if they go to switch decks again, it becomes really obvious really fast. Like, oh, you're constantly switching to try and counter what I'm doing over here.
Yeah. And then you're just playing a game of Switchy Decky, which is tons of fun. You're like,
everyone loves a game.
You just
Switchy Decky.
Switch decks for a good 10, 15 minutes and see who wins.
Yeah. Or the other thing you can do is just try and, put down a rule with your table where you'll all choose your commanders face down or something and then flip them up. If you really need to do something like that, you can. But hopefully there's other ways of avoiding that before you get there.
Yeah, I don't love the blind commander thing because I think it kind of kneecaps your ability to have a really good rule zero conversation and to be like, oh, you don't get to see my commander before we start playing. And some people do this at LGSs and things like that. And I think that can be equally an issue, but in a different direction. Yeah. With like being honest about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This stuff happens to us, right? I talked about it before. I have an Alesha deck that I love. And surprise, Alesha reanimates things from the graveyard. And Nick has a Bruvac deck that we've talked about. So very often, Alesha into Bruvac is a very favorable matchup for me. And it does happen sometimes where I pick Alesha and Nick is playing Bruvac and we do it. And usually what I do in that situation is I ask, I'm like, hey, are you cool with me playing Alesha right now? And if Nick is like, nah, I don't really want that, like I would switch my deck. And if he's like, yeah, that's fine, then we're good to go. But I think you'd want to just, even that tiny little bit of a discussion, be like, hey, are you guys cool with me playing Bruvac right now? I know that mill can be like a little bit salty, but like, is this fine with you guys? And if that person's like, I'd rather play this deck. If you play Bruvac, I kind of want to change. Then you can be like, oh, no worries. I'll play something else. Or even be like, well, why do you want to change? I think it's kind of a conversation territory with this stuff.
Because also, mill is not oppressive enough that someone needs to be switching decks entirely to deal with it
Yeah.
most of the time, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Bruvek's got some cool tricks, and he can mill somebody out in a single turn if the stars align. But like, a lot of other commanders can kill people pretty fast too.
Yeah.
You know?
So what do you think about the assault rating here?
This one is pretty high for me. When it comes to salty situations where a player is clearly not willing to have a conversation or hear out concerns of their pod, that is super salty for me, because that is getting in the territory of just like not really being a considerate friend, you know? Like if one of you guys were like, hey, I don't like it when you change your decks like that, it kind of feels unfair, I'd be like, oh, sorry, like I'm going to change. Like I won't do that again. You know, my good friend just told me that this is a weird situation for them. So I think with that kind of stuff, it just speaks to like a play group dynamic issue. And that stuff is very frustrating for me when someone is willingly not working to like improve their side of that, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it leaves a bad taste in the mouth to be like, oh, I'm going to deliberately switch this into something that I know benefits me.
Yeah.
Just feels wrong. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could try and put some spice in to deal with some of those Titans. Like you can exile some stuff off, mix a bit of that in, but it gets tough. That's when you run your bribery, right?
Well, not even. I actually, in the old mill days, one of like the first, I don't even, maybe it was in when I was running Anya as a CDH deck. I know Nick has like teched away Titans for me before, where he like exiled it with the trigger on the stack, and then like you get the one shuffle, but then you're kind of like done. I don't even remember how he did it. There was some like weird cool shit that he did one game, but
isn't like Lantern of Insight do that?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, yeah. But
no, the Soul Guide Lantern.
Oh, Soul Guide Lantern.
Yeah.
Soul Guide Lantern, you can tap it and sack it, I think, and exile all graveyards.
Yeah,
like that's the thing.
If this guy switches to a deck with a Titan just to counter your mill deck, and then you deal with the Titan one time, he's never making that swap again in the future.
That's true.
That is a really good point. Yeah, the lesson will be learned at that point. But yeah, generally speaking, you know, I think that there's other ways to find that balance just with a conversation. Sometimes you'll have to play against the deck that has the Titan. And, you know, we talked about some solutions to have in that. And sometimes they'll have to play with a deck that doesn't have the Titan. Like, I think it should be balanced, you know. You should both be able to play the deck that's a little bit more advantageous against the other one at different times.
Yeah. And sometimes you could also try things like you decide the deck you're playing in turn order or something like that. If conversations and just like good faith really isn't working, there are some rules you could workshop to try and make something that's a little more established as a process for it.
Yeah. Or, you know, we love to say this, play each other's decks.
Yep. Always good.
Yeah. Pass every deck to the person on the right and play.
Cool. Well, what else do we have?
I think the only thing we have is our favorite segment. It's that time
of the week.
It is that time of the week.
How often does it come?
It comes once every week.
Whoa.
Sometimes twice if you're a Patreon member, and we have this segment on the Patreon.
I don't think we're doing salty cards.
No, we don't. You're right.
So everyone that's out there that's, you know, doesn't advertise, isn't subscribing for the Patreon, don't worry, you're not missing out on any of the salty cards of the week.
It's true.
That's okay.
Well, there is the lost episode on the Patreon, which does have a salty card of the week.
It's got 4. It's got 4 salty cards.
Does
in
it?
The 1 week?
Oh, it does have 4. Oh man, yes, actually,
and they're extremely salty. So
that is a really good point. Yeah, they're high up on the list. Well, it's the time of the week where we say, Mike, what's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week is humility.
Salty card.
That was so late.
I was hoping Tony would do it.
Well, I was like going to, but then
you guys just wanted me to do
felt
it clean.
Weird about it, and I did it. And then
you guys were just getting a little bit humble.
Yeah,
you had some humility about it.
Yeah, we knew what it was going to be.
Well, the salty card of the week is humility. We're doing humility.
Nice.
Because it's a white. We're dreaming of a white Christmas.
Hey.
Oh, nice.
Hey. Nice. Made it happen
Are
in
we
the
though?
end.
If there was no snow, I'd be okay with it.
Really?
It's
like
fucking
snow.
cold here. I don't like snow.
Oh, snow is good.
Eh.
Anywho. All right. So humility. It's 2
It's
and
a salty
2 white.
card. It's a salty 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 card. It is a salty card every single week. Mike tells us a salty card. Tells us a salty card. Tell us about the salty card. It's a salty card. It's a salty. I had to do something, man.
Yeah, that was good. You killed it. You nailed
Thanks.
it.
Thanks,
Good
dude.
job, Sam.
It was solid.
I doubt your praise now. I doubt it.
You did very, very well. I'm very happy that you
I'm
did
sorry. I shoehorned it in as hard as
that.
possible.
It legitimately was pleasant.
Okay, thanks.
So, humility, enchantment. The text on it is all creatures lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1.
Yep.
So, Tony, salt levels.
It's a great question. I feel like I know it's bad because I haven't seen it. Like, it hasn't really been used on me. I know it exists. I think Sam has it on his CDH decks. Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, you're making it up.
Isn't there some effect that you have that makes her, or you just make our lands 1/1s or something?
Yeah, that's different.
And Morath.
I see like I see like how this could play. Like it I would be very upset and annoyed in the moment. I would definitely be feeling salt. I would be annoyed. I'd be like, fuck this. Like, I just want, because like it's fucking Commander. Like, name creatures in your deck that don't do anything, right? Like, what creatures do you play that are just like vanilla, like literally do nothing? It's pretty like rare. And so
Tokens
it's
sometimes.
hosing like every creature in your deck, probably. So I think it fucking sucks, but I haven't had it played against me. So like, I don't have immediate like salt for it. And it feels very white. So
yeah,
I don't like hate it for like breaking the color pie or anything, which is also usually something that like makes me feel a little more angsty against some of these salty cards. But
True.
Yeah, I think that's my take.
Sam, would this make you salty?
Oh, definitely. Similar to Tony, I've never played against humility. I think I have once or twice. So I don't have a ton of experience with it, but I don't like the card for a number of reasons. One, it's just annoying. Shuts down all your creatures. If you have like creature-based combos, creature-based abilities, pretty much every deck is doing something creature-based. Just turns it off and gives everybody these like boring 1/1s. And then you have like other ways to win. Usually the deck that's doing this has some awesome secondary way to win, and it's going to crush you. Or they do it with like, I don't know, that still wouldn't work. I was going to say they do it with Elish Norn, but that wouldn't fucking work.
No.
Because
Elish
humility
Norn
turns it
Nussie
off.
hopping out.
Oh God,
I thought we moved past that.
Definitely not.
and that actually is a great segue. Not the Elish Nornissi thing, but that is a great segue into why I also don't like it. My second point, which is fucking the layers of it, man. I really dislike dealing with layers. I think they're like it's just like as complicated as Magic rules get is layers. Or one of like the more complicated concepts in Magic rules is the layer system. And sometimes it's very like there is a very organized chart you can look up and read through it and figure it out. But man, just like knowing that shit offhand, there's almost always something that's going to happen in a game with humility out, where there's some question that you can't answer and people are confused, and it's just kind of like a frustrating thing to deal with rules wise.
Yeah.
So
what happens when you put an equipment on one of these creatures? You know, does it get the equipment abilities? Does it not? Because it hasn't lost those. Like you've got,
Exactly.
and even if those questions do have an answer, like you're saying, you still have to figure them out. Sometimes you don't necessarily know them offhand.
Sometimes with layers, it's as simple as like timing. Like, oh, this was played first, this was played later. That is how these abilities are applying. But with that one, with something getting changed, I mean, I don't even know the rules like well enough to even try to give this a good explanation. But there are these instances where it is just very frustrating to have to deal with that rule that's out there. totally outside of it being a very, very powerful effect. I do know that there used to be some CDH decks that would run Humility. It's kind of a weird card that doesn't have a good home because CDH is so creature prevalent these days, and there's so many value creatures that you're kind of kneecapping yourself a little bit and your opponents. And I guess you just hope that they get more of a disadvantage than you.
Yeah, I guess I'd imagine maybe in like an Esper ad nause list where
you're
just trying to turn all the creatures off.
Yeah, or like, you want like stacks shut down so you can like do something, go for your win turn.
A polymorph line that's not running creatures anyway. But even then, it's probably turning off your polymorph end target, so it's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird thing. Like, you think about like, okay, well, I'm going to polymorph and bring a Hull Breacher out. It's like, well, now it's a 1/1.
Do they hit the battlefield as what they were?
No,
it's static. It's a static effect. So
it's
you
like
don't even get ETBs.
Effect. So it comes down.
That
and
was
it's
really
just
the
already
question.
happening.
Like, do you get ETBs or not?
It's as if it's entering as a 1/1. Like,
nice.
It's a weird thing.
Does it give them flavor text?
The flavor text is gone.
It removes all abilities and all flavor text.
The only flavor is vanilla.
Why does this card even exist? Okay. I like that.
That's great.
So I'm not crazy about this effect. How do you feel about it, Mike?
This card also makes me salty. I, again, haven't played it very much, but I can imagine it would make me salty, especially because I'm a big fan, and Tony's talked about this too, of slotting in types of removal that fits in the theme of a deck. So if I'm running like a Gruul Smash deck, my enchantment removal is probably stapled to a creature. And suddenly that means it's I'm running a Rex Sage or something. Suddenly it can't remove it anymore because it doesn't have the ability to remove Humility. So I think that this hoses a lot of things like that, where you've maybe made a deck design choice around, making something more cohesive by finding an effect that's on a creature instead of on an enchantment or something. And I dislike that. I do love something about it a little bit. I love the image of everyone's got a massive board, and then at some point it's literally like, none of that matters. What matters is how many you had. How many did you have? And then everyone's just left with that. I think that's funny.
I feel like I also like, now that I know that all of their flavor text is changed to vanilla, like I think I like the card a little bit better. But where does it sit on the list, Mike?
This one's pretty high up there. This comes in at,
I want to guess 41.
I'm going for 39.
Wow. Now,
bullshit.
y'all are both way too generous for how little salt you think this induces. This is the 21st card.
Oh, wow.
On the salty card list.
Really?
Very high up there.
I would not have guessed the top.
That's surprised.
Quarter.
Yeah.
But also we haven't played against it. So I think if I had, I would know how shitty it is.
Totally.
I mean, that's the thing. I guess like, I know it's like making me salty a little bit, and I haven't even played against it. So like, it's like a powerful effect to like know how I would feel having not actually seen it in the wild as of yet.
Right.
I do want to read something from The Gatherer. I want to read some rulings associated with this.
Please.
Hopefully this doesn't put anyone to sleep because it's boring, but it's really interesting. So I guess it's not boring. It's interesting. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
You're selling it really well.
So I want to read this other card, Opalescence. Opalescence is an enchantment. It's got the same cost as Humility, 2 colorless, 2 white. And it says each other global enchantment is a creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. And it's still an enchantment. So if you play Opalescence, you would think that Humility would become a creature. Right? Becomes a 1/1 creature. Well, now does Humility turn itself off and it loses that ability? And therein lies the issues with layers. So layers are really there to solve like paradoxes with cards and stuff like that. The rulings that exist for Humility are about Humility and Opalescence and how they interact. So it says With a humility and 2 opalescences on the battlefield, if humility has the latest timestamp, again, we're talking about timestamps, this is played recently, then all creatures are 1/1s with no abilities. If the timestamp order is opalescence, humility, opalescence, the second opalescence is a 1/1, and the humility and first opalescences are 4/4s. Because their mana values are equal to their converted mana cost from the
right, because that's more recent.
If the humility has the earliest timestamp, then everything is a 4/4. One final ruling to really make your head spin. This is just like a paragraph. This is the current interaction between humility and opalescence. The type changing effect applies at layer 4, but the rest happens in the applicable layers. The rest of it will apply even if the permanent loses its ability before it's finished applying. So if opalescence, humility, and worship, another card I'm not going to read, are on the battlefield, and opalescence entered the battlefield before humility, the following is true. Layer 4, humility and worship each become creatures that are still enchantments. Opalescence. Layer 6, humility and worship each lose their abilities from humility. Layer 7b, humility becomes a 4/4 and worship becomes a 4/4 from opalescence. Humility becomes 1/1 and worship becomes 1/1 from humility. That happens at the same level. The order is based on timestamps. But if humility entered the battlefield before opalescence, the following is true. Basically all the same shit I just read, except they become 4/4s at the end of it. So
who the fuck
just
is
like
playing this many humilities and opalescences?
So there is something that I'm pretty sure it exists. I hope this isn't apocryphal. I've like read it on the internet before. There exists these judge decks where they're like these super crunchy. It's these decks that are designed to hit every single corner case rule and be like really confusing. And you don't play to win. You play the deck out, and the first person to make a rules mistake loses. And I think that is where a lot of these cards exist. I read that at one point, like, you know, maybe it was on Reddit or something like that a long time ago. And I think about that all the time, man. I would love to watch a game with somebody playing these like crazy heavy rules interaction decks.
I was about to say, for someone who hates layers, you just spent a lot of time reading about layers.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me clarify. I hate dealing with them in a game because I think it's really confusing and it slows down the game and takes time away. But I love rules. I fucking love rules, guys. And rules like this, where it's so thought out, it is like a beautiful machine. I love it. I love that they've thought through all these like weird little paradoxical interactions and have a real solution that you can come to. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is wild. Well, that wraps it up for our humble card of the week.
Well, thanks, Mike. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine. We hope everybody enjoys the holiday season, if you celebrate, or, you know, just enjoy the turnover to the new year, provided you're using the Gregorian calendar. You know, what if someone's not using our calendar, Mike?
True. No. I love that you used Gregorian. It is the Gregorian calendar, right? It's great.
I think so, isn't it?
I think so.
Fucking scrubs.
Sure.
Good job, Gregory.
Yeah.
Nice calendar.
Greg made a fucking sick calendar. He was also like, you want to hear me chant?
I do like me a good Gregorian chant.
Yeah, dude's got some great chants. But yeah, thank you, everybody. You know, this is probably our last episode before the new year. We just want to thank everybody for all the support that we've got. It has been crazy. Like when we first recorded episode 1 and 2, and we're just kind of hanging out and doing this, we didn't think it was going to grow into what it is right now. And, you know, we've still got a lot of growing to do. We've got some big goals and dreams that we want with this show, but we just really are appreciative of everyone who's, you know, sent in a question for mail time at our Gmail, howlingsaltmine@gmail.com, and given us a message of support, said that they found the show somehow, that they love it, that they like that we're doing, or that they like what we're doing. our Patreon subscribers, of course, you guys are like our family, our little LGS that we have on Discord, where we hang out and chat and like play games together. I mean, it's just way more than I thought we would ever create with this. And it's
we even love the blue players. That's not true. It's a trash cup.
Whoa. I was about to say, no way.
I love the blue players. Yeah, it's just really cool. So we appreciate you guys for sure. And just hope you get into the new year, and it's going to be crazy. Like a year from now, we'll see what's going on with this podcast, hopefully some good stuff.
Yeah, hopefully.
So, after all that, we should probably still do our regular plugs and wrap up of the show. If you guys want to follow us on social media, we are at The Howling Salt Mine on Instagram and Reddit, and at Howling Salt Mine on Twitter. Give us a follow, chat with us wherever you want. If you guys want to be on a future mail time, send us your salty stories in. You can DM us on any social media platform or email us to thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com. And check out our Patreon if you want to support the show. If you want an extra episode every month, if you want to hang out in our Discord, get to jam games with us and just chat about the game. We can look at your decks, and we do some like deck building on there. We talk about cards. We catch games with each other when we can. It's a real fun time. Good little community that we're building up over there. So check that out at patreon.com/howlingsaltmine. Lastly, I want to shout out our buddy Devin Burnett, JD Burnett. He is an amazing tattoo artist in Asheville, North Carolina, and he has also graced us with our wonderful podcast art that we love so very much. So go give him a follow on Instagram and get a tattoo if you're in the area. That's it.
Stay salty.
Stay salty, and see you next year.
Hey.
There's an ep on the 29th too, right?
Oh, is there? Fuck. God damn it. Well, the people who listen through to the end get this little extra joke.
Little extra nugget.
Well, don't forget to draw an additional card during your upkeep. Bye. Oh, fuck.
Bye.
I fucked it up. Don't forget to
during your draw.
Fucking scrub.
Don't forget to draw a card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
I want to start out with, I had yet to find an MTG podcast that I actually enjoyed until I randomly found episode 17. After hearing Tony's misplay.
Oh my fucking God.
Is that where we talk about the infinite combo?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, man. After hearing about Tony's misplay, Howling Salt Mine has quickly become my favorite podcast for MTG. Oh, thanks, man. I love the content, the banter, and the discussions on playgroup dynamics, and of course, the salt. Oh, this is not a fucking post. This is
just an appreciation
this
post.
Is just nice fan mail.
We should just read it. Sugar break.
So when you get to the end, you're like, actually, that was a sugar break.
This is just a guy being like, hey, I really love the show. All right, I got to Okay, let's take that again. You guys want to say anything nice?
Nah, fuck these bitches.
Tony. Tony, no. Oh my gosh. That'll be our last blooper of the year. That'll be the last thing people hear as they go into the new year.
Sounds like a fucking win. It should be on prime time. This is fucking blooper bullshit.
No way. Your nonsense gets relegated to the end, sir.
The real 30% no.
Yeah,
That's
they
great.
do. They're hearing it right now. They're hearing this right now. They're hearing everything I'm saying. I haven't cut a bit of it. I didn't even cut Mike's yawn. I did cut that though.
Oh, come on. That was an okay Chewbacca, I think.
All right, let me wrap this fucking craziness up.